We're going to continue our lesson with circle and arcs, and this video we're going to do circumference and arc length. The previous video we did central angles, major, minor arcs. The circumference of a circle is the distance around the circle. The number pi, 3.14, is the ratio of the circumference of a circle to its diameter. So in prior math courses, I'm pretty sure everyone has actually calculated the area and circumference of a whole circle. Okay, using our circumference formula of pi times the diameter, or circumference is also equal to the 2 times pi times the radius, depending on if you're given the diameter or the radius. Okay, so don't forget that the radius is equal to the diameter divided by 2. Okay, and also know the diameter is also equal to 2 times the radius. And pi is equal to 3.14. So again, circumference is the distance around the entire circle. What we're going to do in this video lesson is find how far is it from 2 points on the circle, meaning that we're going to find a length of the circle on the arc. You have coplanar circles that have the same center are called concentric circles. So here are some concentric circles. They share a center. Therefore, I have circle A that is with 2 radii. So we have radius 1, and then you have radius 2. So concentric circles are not necessarily congruent. And obviously, they're only going to be congruent circles if they have the congruent radii. So we're going to do arc length. Okay, arc length is the ratio of a arc compared to the whole circumference. Okay, so I know that arc length is going to be equal to the central angle times the radius times 2 times pi all over 360. So arc length. Okay, the arc length is basically the distance from A to B on the circle. So if you're on A and you're going to travel to B, how long is that distance going to be? Well, it's going to be a fraction of the entire circumference of the circle, because you're not going the entire 360 degrees. You're only going to travel a certain amount that's going to be less than 360 degrees. So arc length, okay, is the distance from 2 points on the circle. So if you want to find arc length, you need central angle. Don't forget the central angle is also equal to the arc measure. So I'm going to abbreviate arc length as AL, okay, and CA will be the central angle. So what is the length of each arc shown in red? Leave your answer in terms of pi. So little side note, in terms of pi, do not use pi or 3.14 in the calculator. So you don't evaluate pi at all, and you're going to have pi in your answer. So I want the red arc. I want the arc length. I don't want the arc measure. I want the length from X to Y on the circle. So my arc length is going to equal my central angle to the arc is 90, okay, times the radius. Well, diameter is 16, so my radius is 8, times 2 times pi all over 360. So the arc length of XY is going to equal, so I have 90 times 2 times 8 is 1440. So I have 1440 pi over 360. Again, it's in terms of pi. So you're not using pi in your calculator. You're not using 3.14 in your calculator. So you do 1440 divided by 360. and you get 4. So this is 4 pi. And that is the answer of arc length of x, y. Now 4 pi is about 12.57. Okay, if you wanted to get this as a decimal, this is about 12.57 inches from x to y. So make sure if it says in terms of pi, I want the answer as 4 pi. If I want the answer rounded to the nearest hundredth, I would use 12.57. So I want the length of each arc shown in red. Leave your answer in terms of pi. So I want the arc length of xpy. Well, the arc length of xpy is going to equal, again, the central angle, okay? This angle right here, XOY, is going to be 240 degrees. Since the arc measure is 240, the central angle is 240. So the XPY arc measure is the same as the central angle. So it's 240 times 2 times the radius times pi all over 360. So in terms of pi, I don't use pi in the calculator, so I have 240 times 2 times 15 is 7,200. So I have 7,200 pi over 360. 7,200 over 360 is 20 pi. So there's my answer, 20 pi cm. So if I want that as a decimal, so 20 times pi is about 62.83. This is 62.83 centimeters. So the distance from x, p to y on the circle is about 62.83 centimeters. So I have a semicircle. Okay, here's my semicircle with radius of 1.3 meters. Okay, so the arc length of this semicircle is 180 times 2 times my radius, 1.3 times pi, all over 360, which is equal to 1.3 pi. Which is 13 over 10 pi as a fraction. And if you don't want it in pi form, 1.3 times pi is 4.08, or it's equal to 4.08 meters. So 13 over 10 pi is your answer in terms of pi. 4.08 is your answer rounded to the nearest hundredth. You also have congruent arcs, are arcs that have the same measure and are in the same circle, or incongruent circles. So you have two circles that are congruent, and they have the same arc measure, therefore the arc lengths will also be the same. Let's do some examples. Last two, so circumference, so number 5. Circumference is 2 times pi times the radius. So circumference of circle P, my radius is 9, so 2 times pi times 9, which is 18 pi. In my math course, if I don't tell you to leave it in terms of pi or round to nearest hundredth when you're dealing with circles, Please leave your answer in terms of pi. So there's my answer for number 6. Since I didn't tell you if I want it in terms of pi or rounded, keep it in terms of pi. So 6, what's the length of arc BD? Remember, I'm not asking for the measure of arc BD, I'm asking for the length of arc BD. So arc length of BD, well, the angle that goes with B to D, if I know that this is 65, I know 180 minus 65 is 115. So I know that this is 115, okay? Because remember, linear pair also, 360 degrees in a circle, 180 degrees in a half a circle. So it's 115 times 2 times the radius times pi all over 360. So 115 times 2 times 9 is 2070. So I have 2070 pi over 360. Divide by 360. And I have 23 over 4 pi, or 5.75 pi. And that's the arc length of BD. If you want that to the nearest hundredth, that would be 18.06, okay, which is also equivalent to, okay, it's also about 18.06. Okay, so let's recap. So remember that circumference is 2 pi r, or circumference is pi d. So remember that the arc length is equal to the central angle times 2 times radius times pi over 360. Remember that the arc measure is equal to the central angle, and these are in degrees. And last thing, arc measure is not equal to arc length.